the country will be in a better place by early summer, does that mean you're going to need to extend the social distancing guidelines until then?
Well, we may, and we may go beyond that. We're going to have to see where it is. And I think people are going to know. You're going to know. I'm going to know. I think people are going to know just out of common sense. At some point, we won't have to do that. But until we feel it's safe, we're going to be extending.
You have 23 cases where new cases, 23 states where new cases are on decline. What does that mean about when the country can be safely reopened to a more normal point?
Yeah, but it means we're going to watch those cases very carefully. I think we've all gotten very good at it. We've gotten good at tracing. We see where the cases are, where they're going, and we're going to be watching it, and it's called containment. At a certain point, we're going to be able to contain. And, you know, when you see this, a lot of people have been talking about summer. Maybe this is one of the reasons. I once mentioned that maybe it does go away with heat and light, and people didn't like that statement very much. The fake news didn't like it at all, and I just threw it out as a suggestion.
Because it wasn't science-based, that's why we reject it.
That would last for a long time.
Dumb and you get it right, doesn't mean it make it any more dumb.
It dies very quickly with the sun. Yeah, go ahead.
You said yesterday that you're going to look into Senator McConnell's suggestion for allowing states to declare bankruptcy versus the aid.
Yeah, we'll look into it, and I have been looking into it. I've been talking to a lot of the different senators, but I don't want to talk about it now. That was a very interesting presentation. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I wanted to talk about McConnell's suggestion that aid to the states amounts to a
I just told you I'm not talking about it now. I'll talk about it later. I'd like to talk about something that right now is of more interest to people.
Could I ask Mr. Bryan a question?
Yeah, sure.
How is that not of more interest to people? What?
Thank you. When you started your presentation, you described this as an emerging result. Does this mean your study is conclusive? Is there more work to do?
We're continuing that. For example, on the aerosol side, you notice the figures were 20% humidity. We're looking at higher humidity levels. We would expect that we even have a greater impact on the virus. We're looking at other types of disinfectants. And so we're as a scientific community, we're continuing to study the virus to understand its characteristics.
Mr. Bryan, can you explain why some hot spots we've seen in the U.S. are hot and humid, like New Orleans, for example?
Let me explain. If you look at the coronavirus
We haven't
as
been
a
that
chain,
humid down in New Orleans. It's not there yet.
What we've done through our study is we've identified some of the weak links in that chain.
More moist than others.
That the transmission of the virus depends upon. We identified that heat and humidity is a weakness in that chain. We've identified that sunlight, solar light, UV rays is a weakness in that chain. That doesn't take away the other activities, the guidance from the White House, the guidance from the CDC and others on the actions and steps that people need to take to protect themselves. This is just another tool in our tool belt, right? Another weapon in the fight that we can add to it. And in the summer, we know that summer-like conditions are going to create an environment where the transmission can be decreased, and that's an opportunity for us to get ahead.
But the president
He should just not walk away.
Cleaners with the bleach.
You want to talk to scientists, not to doofuses in chief.
There's no scenario that could be injected into a person, is there? I mean,
No, I'm here to talk about the findings that we had in the study. We don't do that within that lab, our labs.
So how do you...
Are we simplifying too much? We're talking about almost a cleaning sterilization of an area. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work.
Oh God, here we
It certainly
go.
has a big effect if it's on a stationary object.
Okay.
So how do you...
Are we simplifying too much by saying that it'd be better with the warmer weather and the sun coming out more and more, that people would be outside than staying inside their home, confined to the four walls of their house?
It would be irresponsible for us to say that we feel that the summer is just going to totally kill the virus and that if it's a free-for-all and that people ignore those guides. That is not the case. We have an opportunity, though, to get ahead with what we know now and factor that into the decision makings for what opens and what doesn't.
An opportunity to get ahead in the summer.
The heat,
In the summer.
hot summer, and whatever other conditions, humidity and lack
April.
of humidity, that would have an impact. So that on surfaces where it can be picked up, it will die fairly quickly in the summer, whereas in the winter it wouldn't die so quickly.
Yes, Mr. President. When it's exposed to UV rays, take a playground equipment, for example. The UV rays hitting a piece of playground equipment will kill the virus when it hits on the playground equipment. But underneath, where the sun does not get, if someone touched that and had it on their hands, it could still be there.
Thank you.
Right? It has to be in direct light of the UV rays.
With the sun, if it's on somebody's hands, right, and they haven't touched their face and all of the things.
And
that
it's
we've
exposed to
all
the sun. It'll.
I know, but if they're outside, right, and their hands are exposed to the sun, will that kill it as though it were on a piece of metal or something else?
Not, I don't want to say it will at the same rate because it's a non-porous surface. But what we do know is that we look
You
at
have
the
to
worst case
explain that
scenario.
to Trump,
and the
what a
virus lives
non-porous
longer
surface means.
on non-porous surfaces. So porous surfaces, it doesn't live quite as long. So in theory, what you said is correct.
This is sort of semi-non-porous, right? This, right?
Yes, Mr. President.
They're pores.
Governors, how should Mr. Ryan,
I don't like to talk about the pores.
Mr. Ryan, how should governors who are opening their states, working on that, incorporate the findings of this study into those guidelines?
I would leave that up to the governors. This is a decision. This factors into their decision process. As I mentioned, with knowing this knowledge and having this knowledge, as we continue to study and further know what the virus does and how it reacts, it could impact the way a governor will look at what he opens in a state, how he opens it, in what environments these things are opened up. But I leave that up to the governors to make that decision. How they incorporate this.
Obviously, at the moment, the advice is stay at home. By the summer, could we be flipping that and saying you'd be much better off being outside with UV rays, all the humidity that Washington brings in August?
I would not go contrary to the guidance that have been issued right now. I think, though, to tell you that if I'm having an event with my family, I'm doing it in the driveway or in the backyard, not inside the house with my children.
In fact, I'm thinking about moving outside to the rose garden. No, it's a very interesting question, actually. Okay, please.
Mr. Ryan, how much more research, how much more time would it take to have conclusive results that could be used here? You said these were emerging results.
We first were able to receive the virus back in February is when we started testing. And it is a science-based approach. Science is a process. The doctor can attest to that.
Deliberate America folks aren't going to like that. They don't like science.
It is what it is. But we are now starting to get results. And we're every week or 2 weeks, we're starting to find out something new and something different. And in talking to the task force and the vice president, he's already asked us to come to him every time we come up with some new discoveries that we could share to the public.
Bill?
Yeah, sir, have you compared notes with your counterparts in other foreign governments or in private industry who might have been studying the same thing, and do their findings show the same result that you found here?
We do have a very good partnership with a lot of our allies. We work closely with them on this particular topic. We actually authored a document called the Master Questions List. If you go to DHS-S&T's website, we've already had about 17,000 hits on this document. It actually outlines what all the countries in the world are doing to fill the certain gaps of knowledge that don't exist within the virus, and what we do know, and that is really what targets and drives
there
the
are
science
known
community.
knowns,
What don't we know
and there
now?
are known
So we don't
unknowns.
duplicate
There
what
are
other people have
unknown
done.
knowns
So
and
we've championed
unknown
that document.
unknowns.
It's well referenced, and I would encourage you to look at that.
Thank you, Rumsfeld, for that.
And we are working with other countries on vaccines, as you know. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Mr. President. If there is a summer ebb with this virus, what would the federal government need to do to take advantage of that time?
Say it at the beginning, what?
Oh, so if there is a summer sort of ebb with this virus, what would the federal government need to do to take advantage of that time to be better prepared for a possible resurgence in the fall than we were the first time?
We don't know that there will be
I
a
think a lot of
resurgence.
people are going to go outside all of a sudden. People that didn't
That's
want
what
to go
he's gonna
outside, they'll be going. This, to me, this was really a very interesting meeting. We covered it in great detail, and these are incredible people at that. We could call it a laboratory because that's essentially what it is. It's a super
I think that's the
laboratory.
hinge for trying to
So
do
a lot
a
of things
good
going on at that
impression
laboratory.
of Donald Trump. You have to be able to get
A
that.
lot of very interesting
People.
things going on
Right.
in the laboratory. Yeah.
What would you and other areas of the government need to do on testing, for example, or other things like that
Increase
to
it.
be prepared if it came back in the fall? How would you take advantage of the summer?
It's actually a very good question. It's something the task force already has begun discussing, that we are, if a combination of factors, let me say again, as states put into practice the guidelines to open up America again, implement safe and responsible plans to open up their economies along the lines that the president unveiled a week ago today, as people continue to properly phase, that in combination with some of these findings could well give us a summer respite from the coronavirus. And our team is already speaking about working on a continuous basis through this summer. Every single day we're increasing testing. Every single day air bridge flights are coming into the country. They're I can promise you at the President's direction, there will be no letting up on making sure that our hospitals have the equipment, have the personal protective supplies for medical personnel. There'll be no letting up on the development of therapeutics by our great pharmaceutical companies or driving toward a vaccine as soon as it is possible to make available to the public. There'll be no letting up on continuing to scale testing, already more than anyone in the world, but by next fall we'll have a broad range of testing, a variety of different means. And that's why we say with confidence that should the coronavirus reemerge at any point next fall or next winter, we will be prepared to deal with it, identify it, do the contact tracing and isolation to ensure that we deal with this epidemic in the manner that we deal with infectious diseases.
Okay.
We're here to talk about science.
Mr. President, on the subject of medical research, why have you stopped promoting hydroxychloroquine as a cure?
I haven't at all. What do you say I have? We'll see what happens. We've had a lot of very good results, and we had some results that perhaps aren't so good. I don't know.
I don't know. Of course you don't know. You're a snake oil salesman.
Good. So I haven't at all, and it's
I'm waiting for somebody in the press to ask,
malaria,
have you
for lupus,
invested
for
in
other
any of
things,
these
and we'll
companies
see
that
what it
produce
is, but I guess,
hydroxychloroquine? That's what I want to see. That's what I want to
many
hear.
studies going on that, so we'll be able to learn.
The veteran study that shows that
I have not.
the
I
death
haven't
rate is
seen it.
higher.
I have not seen it. Go ahead, please.
Of course, yeah.
President, we're now over 26 million new jobless claims over 5 weeks.
Yeah.
How the Vice President talked about this summer getting better, but what do your economists tell you about the time it's going to take to you in the U.S. to create
Well, I know
those
a
jobs
lot
back?
about economists.
September,
Sure.
October.
Well, let me go. We know the rest of the question, right? So I know a lot about economists, and the answer is they have no idea. I think I have as good an idea as anybody, and I think our economy will start to pick up very substantially as soon as the states get open, and that's happening as we
Well,
speak.
the experts
and it's
don't know
actually very
anything, but
exciting,
Donald
and,
Trump knows everything. Is that it?
People are just thrilled to see it, because our country has to get back to work. They want to get back to work. You see that, whether it's a demonstration or just in talking to people. They're going to get back to work, and
They're not
going
going to get back to work if they
very
demonstrate in the
fast.
way that they're demonstrating.
States are advanced. I look at
gonna
Gavin Newsom. Newsom was very nice
virus
today. He wrote
explode.
a beautiful statement about. We sent him a lot of things that he needed. Okay, different things that he needed.
Why does it have to be a beautiful statement? Why can't it just be a statement? Why can't he just have said?
They're doing really well in Florida. They're doing well in a lot of places. New York and New Jersey got hit very hard. They're doing very well. I spoke again with Governor Cuomo, with Governor Murphy. They're doing a great job. And here's the thing, we have to see, they got hit hard. Everyone close together, tight in. People don't realize New Jersey is very tight. You realize that because you've been covering it for a long time, but very tight. New York obviously is very tight. They're doing a terrific job. I think for the most part, I'll be able to tell you when it's all over, but a lot of the governors have done a really terrific job. Some I don't think have, to be honest, but we'll be talking about that in the future. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. In a new interview today with Time Magazine, Dr. Fauci said that the U.S. is not in a situation where we can say we are where we want to be with regard to testing capacity. He said we need much more testing capacity as well as tests. So why do you keep saying we have a tremendous testing capacity? And do we have a national strategy that goes beyond tracking just what the states are doing?
The answer is yes, and the answer is, as you know, and as I've said many times,
We've done the most.
We're very advanced in testing. Other countries are calling us to find out what are we doing. And by the way, within 2 weeks, you'll see numbers and you'll see different forms of testing, just like we came up with the Abbott
But what about per
Laboratories machine.
capita?
which
I will say this
gives it
till
to you
I'm
in
blue
5
in the
minutes
face.
that
I'll
everybody
turn to a
wants.
smirk.
Everybody's
Per
asking, can we get
capita.
that? But you can only make them so fast. But as you know, we've done more testing than every other nation
But not
combined.
per capita,
And
which
that's a
doesn't
big
give us
statement.
a
And you know,
picture
when they talk
of
about
what
different
the
tests and different things, we're also a
population
bigger nation
looks
than
like.
most. And so when they look at statistics, because statistically we're doing phenomenally in terms of mortality, in terms of all of the different elements that you can judge. When you look, Germany and ourselves are doing very well. We are very accurate in the reporting of numbers. In fact, I'll go a step further. As you know, in New York, they actually added quite a few deaths to a list that was done in New York, and they added a number of deaths. We're very, very highly accurate. And then you'll look at certain lists of other countries. Some are so obvious just to look at, where obviously the number is ridiculous in the form
They're
of
obvious
low,
to look at, just to look at, but
because
they're obvious.
not accurate
What?
counts. They're not even close to accurate counts. In fact, they're insulting to look at them. So we've done very well. Again, testing, we're doing very well on testing.
Except for
We've
not.
tested far more than anybody else
per
anywhere in the
capita.
world. And within a short period of time, you'll be hearing about new tests that are coming out that are going to be incredible.
You already said
So,
that.
Dr. Fauci, that we're just not there yet.
No, I don't agree with him on that. No, I think we're doing a great
course.
job in testing.
He doesn't
I don't
agree with
I said
Fauci.
that, I don't
Who
agree
should
with him.
America
Necessary
believe?
ways to ramp up production of that Abbott rapid test.
Yeah, well, they're doing it. I'll tell you, Steve, they're doing it at a level that they've never done it before. Abbott is a great company. It's a very big, highly
Okay, here's
respected
my-
company.
Hey,
They came up
Abbott!
with this
That I have
machine
to
where
do
you
every
do it.
time
I've
they
done
bring
it
up Abbott.
both ways. I've done it this way, and I didn't like it, and I've done it the Abbott way, where you literally just touch, and 5 minutes later, you know the answer. And we use them in the White House. I think you folks have been given that opportunity, which is much more pleasant than the first way that they looked at you, right? We're making them hundreds of thousands of machines. The advantage to the other tests and the laboratory tests, so we can get millions and millions of those tests done. It takes a day or 2 days, but you know, because it's really a delivery situation more than anything else. The test itself goes quickly once it gets to the laboratory. But as we have found, and as we have, I think, shown everybody in the room, we have many laboratories. We have so many laboratories. Nobody. A lot of the governors did not know that we had this capacity, but we have many laboratories all over our country. Every state has laboratories, and some have a lot of them. So I think we will come up with things as time goes by. Again, when I started, we started with nothing, essentially. We started with a broken test, a test that didn't work. We started with a test that did very few people, not millions of people. The problem is if we did 350 million tests, one for each person, the media would say, oh, you should have done 2 for each person. No matter what you do, it doesn't make
Not
any difference.
true.
It's just like the ventilators.
So
I talk
dumb.
about it all the time. Nobody ever mentions
The Lugan
ventilators.
press,
One of the hardest
the
things,
lying
ventilators.
press, as
And now
my
we're making thousands a
mentor
week, thousands
would
of
say.
ventilators, and they're calling from Mexico. They're calling from many countries. I've received today 4 calls. Would it be possible to send ventilators? Right? I got 4 calls today. I got 3 calls yesterday. No country is equipped like we are. We have 11 different places making ventilators. Our country, as you know, doesn't need them now. Our governors are very happy. But that's different than tests, because with the test you can always say, oh, we need more. No, I think we've done incredibly well obviously with ventilators. We also have 500 million masks that are very shortly going to be here. We've
Probably need
made
more.
millions of masks. We have ordered millions of masks that have arrived and been distributed. We gave one hospital in New York City 300,000 masks. Before the virus, they were using 10,000, and now we got them 300,000, and they got rid of them very quickly, which I sort of say, how did that happen?
Because
Why?
you're supposed to one use
Because they
and
became very
done.
valuable, the masks. So I say, how did that happen? But we've done an amazing job, and we've worked with the governors. And when the governors weren't able, again, they're the first line. When they weren't able to get something like ventilators, they couldn't get ventilators. They could have bought them. You could have bought them, but
Except they were
most of them,
competing
many
against
of
the
them
federal
chose
government
not to.
buying
so
them.
they all needed ventilators. We got the job done. I'll be introducing the team when we're finished with this whole nightmare, this whole curse, this whole plague. But the team that worked on the ventilators was incredible. And the team that worked, and it's a little bit interchangeable, but the team that's working on the testing is truly an incredible team. These are brilliant people. And they're doing it for the country. They're not doing it for other reasons. Some have been very successful. They're doing it for the country.
Mr. President,
Yes.
the House has now passed, since you were here, the relief bill.
Right.
As
I'm
you
signing
know,
it probably tonight.
As you know, there's no aid to states and localities in that bill. Mitch McConnell, of course, has talked about states seeking bankruptcy protection. He's also,
but he
his
didn't want to
office
talk about
referred to
that.
this as the
Like,
idea of
cut them
aiding
off this
states as a
time?
blue state bailout. What do you say to that? Do you agree with that, or do you agree with Governor Cuomo that that is a vicious attack on these states that
I
have
don't
been
think it's
hit
a
by?
vicious attack, but certainly some people do look at it that way. I've spoken to Mitch about it. I've spoken to numerous senators about it. And we're working with senators that are on the other side of the issue, and we'll see what happens. But we're looking to do what's right for the people of this country. We're looking to do what's right for a particular state, and we'll see what happens. But it's certainly the next thing we're going to be discussing, because some states have, in all fairness, John, some states have not done very well for many years, long before the virus came. You know, you can't blame the plague, this horrible plague that came in, and all of a sudden, you know, they can't blame that. You look at Illinois. He's got a lot of problems long before the virus came in. And so we'll be talking about it. It'll be a subject for a period of time. And right now we've made this incredible deal for the workers and for small business. And I'm very happy that Harvard didn't get covered. We actually never sent them the check. But they were very nice about it. We never sent them the money. The old-fashioned way is the check. The new way is send them the money. And we didn't send them the money. And but they were very understanding, and they were very nice about it. So was Princeton, so was Stanford. So
What about Fogo de Chao? What about Ruth's Chris? What about all the other places who got $10 million per establishment, per location?
It was a relatively small amount of money compared to the whole, very small amount of money compared. But we wanted to be fair. We wanted to go to the people that it's supposed to go to.
Are you open to this idea of state and local?
I'm open to ideas that are going to be great for the people of this country. And if we can help states, we're always going to help states. Now, there's different ways of helping states. Some ways are better than others. So we're looking. It is interesting.
What are those ways that are better than others?
Do happen to be blue. It is interesting. You know, if you look around, I mean, the states that seem to have the problem happen to be Democrat.
Because a lot of blue states have high population states.
You know,
New York and New Jersey
High
were
population
long
states,
before
lots of people in
the
them
plague
tend to
came.
be
They were-
Democratic.
They had a lot of problems long before the plague came. I spoke with Governor Cuomo.
You have some that are Republican, but
Governor
you have
Murphy about
lots
it. I
of
spoke
Democratic
with,
states that are
Gavin
high
Newsom about it.
populations,
And,
high,
I'm speaking to
Los
a lot of
Angeles,
people
San
about it
Francisco, and
because it's
California.
probably going to be the
You're
next thing on the
confusing
list.
causation and correlation.
A lot of people understand very well what Mitch is saying, and they also understand the other side of the problem. And I'll be speaking about it. We're going to do the right thing for our country, the right thing for our country, and the right thing for a lot of great people. Okay?
Yeah,
please.
Mr. President, after the presentation we just saw about the heat and the humidity, is it dangerous for you to make people think they would be safe by going outside in the heat, considering that so many people are dying in Florida, considering that this virus has had an outbreak in Singapore, places that are hot and
Here
are
we go.
humid?
Here we go. The new headline is Trump asks people to go outside. That's dangerous. Here we go. Same old group. You ready? I hope people enjoy the sun, and if it has an impact, that's great. I'm just hearing this, not really for the first time. I mean, there's been a rumor that, you know, a very nice rumor that you go outside in the sun or you have heat and it does have an effect on other viruses. But now we get it from one of the great laboratories of the world, I have to say. Covers a lot more territory than just this. This is probably an easy thing, relatively speaking, for you. I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. You know, if you could. And
Let's
maybe
just
you
nuke
can, maybe you
everybody.
can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe
Use
you can't.
gamma
I'm not
rays.
that-
Everyone becomes the
I'm
Hulk.
like a person that has a good, you know what.
But sir, you're the president.
Deborah, have you ever heard of that? The heat and the light relative to certain viruses, yes, but relative to this virus?
Not as a treatment. I mean, certainly fever
Yeah.
is a good thing when you have a fever. It helps your body respond.
I was teaching my son
But
about
not
that
as-
last
I've
night.
not seen heat or
I
light.
think it's a great thing to look at. I mean, you know, okay?
Respectfully, sir, you're the president, and people tuning into these briefings, they want to get information and guidance and want to know what to do. They're not looking for rumors.
Phil, I'm the president, and you're fake news. And you know what I'll say?
Jesus.
I'll say very nicely. I know you well. I know you well because I know the guy. I see what he writes. He's a total faker. So, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? It's just a suggestion from a brilliant lab by a very, very smart, perhaps brilliant man. He's talking about sun. He's talking about heat, and you see the numbers. So that's it. That's all I have. I'm just here to present talent. I'm here to present ideas because we want
present
to get rid of
ideas
this
that
thing.
are
And if heat is good, and if sunlight
that are
is
ridiculous,
good,
like
that's a great thing as far as
doubling
I'm
and
concerned. Go
tripling
ahead.
down on hydroxychloroquine when there's no study.
How close do you think the Oxford University study says they could have one by September? Do you think the pharmaceutical companies in the US around
They could have one of what?
have a vaccine ready, tested by
Oxford's
September?
one. Johnson & Johnson is working. They're also working together. You have many companies working together on a vaccine.
Then do you think they can scale up production and the pharmaceutical companies will be able to do that quickly?
We'll scale it up. If we had a vaccine, it'll be scaled up very quickly. In fact, some of the companies, Johnson & Johnson is one, is scaling up already before they have the final answer. A number of companies are doing that. You'll save a lot of time. The normal is you scale up after. I have to say the FDA has been fantastic. Stephen Hahn, Dr. Hahn, has been fantastic. They're moving along rapidly.
Would you say, would put a time scale on when you
No, I
think
don't
it's-
want to put a time scale because then the
fake
media,
news,
the so-called media, lamestream media will say,
oh God, here we
he
go.
said a time. I don't want to say times because every time I say a time, if you don't hit it, they'll say. So I don't want to talk about time. But I will say that there's been tremendous progress made over the last month.
And can I just ask a very quick question? You spoke to Boris Johnson this week.
I did.
just wonder how he sounded, how he was.
I did.
When do you think he'll be back at work?
He called me a few days ago. I will tell you, he sounded incredible. I was actually surprised. I thought it'd be like, oh, Donald, how are you? He was ready to go. I'm very surprised to tell you this. It's like the old Boris. Tremendous energy, tremendous drive. I was very
racist,
surprised because he
goofy
called me
buffoon.
almost, pretty close
Your
to
idol?
when he got out of the hospital. I think he's doing great. He was so sharp and energetic. Pretty incredible. He's an incredible guy. He's a friend of ours and a friend of mine. He loves our country.
Of course.
He
Of course
loves
he's a
his
friend
country
of
a
yours.
lot, but he loves our country. He respects our country. And they're lucky to
He's
have
in a
him
pod.
over there. Please.
Mr. President, you a couple days ago said that you might reach out to Kim Jong-un directly, but also that you were working to find out if those reports about him being in possible medical trouble were true. I'm wondering if you've either...
I hope he's not in medical trouble.
I love
hope
Kim
he's-
Jong-un.
Anything from
He's
North
Korea.
my
Very well with
boo.
Here we are. You would have been in a war
He's
with
my
North Korea
BFF.
if I didn't get elected president. Remember, I was going to be the one that took us into war my first day in office, okay? Here we are. Look at what's happened. Withdrawal.
You're
bringing
threatening
people
to
home.
start
We're not
shooting
gonna
at
serve as
Iranian
policemen all
boats.
over the world. I don't want to be policemen all over the world.
You're threatening to shoot at
And yet I've
Iranian
rebuilt
boats.
our military to a level that has never been built at before.
Have you been
But
able
it's
to get
never
more information?
recognized by the fake news. Go ahead.
Have you been able to
Thank
use that
you.
relationship to get more information about his status?
I think the report was incorrect. Let me just put it that way. I think the report was done by a network that was incorrect.
Dear
I'm
leader
hearing they
is much
used
more
old
resilient. He
documents.
has superpowers, just like his father who died.
But that's what I hear. I hear the report was an incorrect report.
Mr.
I hope it
President,
was an incorrect report.
When was the last time you heard from him?
I don't want to say. Yeah.
I don't want to
me,
say.
just a quick question about that. So you haven't made any contact, though, just to make sure.
With who?
The North Koreans.
I don't want to say. I won't say that.
Okay.
We have a
Why-
good
why can't you
relationship with
say?
North Korea. As good as you can have. I mean, we have a good relationship with North Korea. I have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I hope he's okay. And somebody would say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's not terrible. I hope he's okay. And I think it was a fake report done by CNN.
Can I ask you a question?
What do you have? Go
I-
ahead.
I
No,
would
that's
like-
enough. Go ahead.
Can I ask? But that wasn't my question.
The problem is you don't write the truth. So, as far as I'm concerned, I want to go. I want to go to the next
Can I
person.
ask you a question about?
No, not CNN, please. Go
The
ahead.
White House has not
You don't.
responded to these
I
allegations.
told you.
From your side.
CNN
So
is fake news.
unprofessional.
Don't talk to me. Go ahead, please.
But he says he was retaliated against, and that's why he was removed from his job. Do you have a response to that?
Okay, next question.
Mr. President, I have two questions, one on behalf of a colleague who's not here.
You should
because
ask
of
the same
social
question.
Just
distancing.
ask one, please.
First one, could you talk about your decision-making process with
Over
the
my
governor
what?
of Georgia? You
The
yesterday said...
controversy?
Well, you said yesterday that you told the governor of Georgia
I
you were
did.
concerned.
I had a good
about-
talk with the governor of Georgia.
Earlier in the week, you spoke and you did not convey this kind of message. Was there a change
I
in
did
your
convey the
thinking?
message. I didn't like the fact that he's leaving certain things. I want the states to open more than he does, much more than he does. But I didn't like to see spas at this early stage, nor did the doctors. Is that a correct statement, Deborah? I didn't like to see spas opening, frankly. I didn't like to see a lot of things happening, and I wasn't happy with it. And I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp. I wasn't at all happy because, and I could have done something about it if I wanted to.
Probably would have had a better
let the
relationship with
governors
Stacey
do it.
Abrams, who might
But
have
I
done
wasn't
things
happy
with
with
common
Brian Kemp.
sense.
Spas,
who wouldn't have had voter suppression
beauty
in Georgia.
parlors, tattoo parlors. No, that. And by the way, I want them to open. Oh, excuse me. I want them to open, and I want them to open as soon as possible. And I want the state to open. But I wasn't happy with Brian Kemp. I will tell you that right now. Yeah, go ahead.
So are you surprised he defied you on that?
No,
Because you
he
made it
didn't.
clear.
No, he didn't defy me at all. That's your language. He didn't defy me. You know what happened? I said, you make your own decision. I told him that. I said, you're not in the guidelines.
This is why you're not a leader.
But I'm letting you make your own decision.
This is why you're a terrible leader.
But I want people to be safe, and I want the
You
people
are a
in Georgia
horrible
to be
leader
safe.
because you won't
And I
assert
don't want this
yourself
thing to
and
flare up
flex
because
your
you're
muscle
deciding to do something
and
that is
say,
not in the guidelines.
This is not
and
what
I went
you
to
need to be
Deborah
doing.
and Dr.
Set the
Fauci and
example.
other people, and they weren't thrilled about it. And I could have stopped him, but I decided, and
Why
we all
didn't you
agreed,
stop him?
I got to watch it closely. So we'll see what happens. I told him very distinctly, I said, Mike was there, I said, you do what you think is best. But if you ask me, am I happy about it? I'm not happy about it, and I'm not happy about Brian Kemp. Go ahead.
A question for Dr. Birx, if I may, Mr. President, about the rate of the decline of the curve in the U.S. You and the Vice President tonight talking about meaningful progress, promising
I'm going to talk
progress.
badly about him, but I'm not going to take responsibility.
Could you speak
for
to
citizens
the
of
rate
Georgia
of
who are
decline
US
of cases in
If
the
we could do
U.S.?
it quickly, that'd be great.
If you're
You see it on the
satisfied
charts.
with the
I mean,
decline.
you have to ask the question, but you do see it on the charts.
And if you have any information from other countries that would inform us about the decline.
Yeah, so many of you, and I've spoken to all of you from this podium about there's weekends difference in reporting, often a spike on Monday. If you look at Mondays over Mondays, if you look at 7-day reporting, we are starting to go down. We had a long flat peak, largely driven, of course, by New York, which is about 45% or so of the cases. As New York goes down, so will the rest of the country have a decline, even more accelerated. I want to say, though, we have had outbreaks. We've had outbreaks in specific prisons. We've had outbreaks in specific nursing homes. We've had outbreaks in specific plants. And when that happens, that adds 200, 300, 400 cases on that single date. So we track very carefully not only what the country's doing, but what each state is doing, each county is doing, and we look at delta changes across all of the counties so that we find early warning signals for these types of outbreaks, because we want the whole country to go down, but we also want to prevent the outbreaks before they occur.
Oh my.
Mr. President? Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Looking forward to November, the election. Given the risk that the flu and the coronavirus come back, there could be a problem. Do you think there is a risk that there will be lack of agreement, lack of legitimacy to the results in a very close election, and people start saying, well, a whole bunch of people couldn't go and vote because they were scared?
I can't tell you what's going to happen in an election. Yeah, a great question. I can't tell you what's going to happen. We have a sleepy guy in a basement of a house that the press is giving a free pass to, who doesn't want to do debates because of COVID, and lots of things.
You didn't want to do debates.
And I watched a couple of interviews, and I say, oh, I look forward to this. But they're keeping him sheltered because of the coronavirus. And he's not moving around.
He's
not
social
moving too
distancing.
much. And then I watch what
doing
the
what
press
he's supposed
does
to do,
the Republican Party, and to me in
Ridiculous.
particular. We had the greatest economy ever put together. We were doing, this is a month
You're
and a
in your
half ago.
house, too, which is
We
absolutely
were
the
doing
White
numbers
House.
likes of which we've never done. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, best employment numbers ever in the history of our country. Our employment numbers, the best in the history of our country, almost 160 million people. The stock market, record numbers, many, many times during my tenure. Many, many times.
Record drops, too,
But
by the
now
way.
we have a country that we had to close because of this. And frankly, if we didn't close it,
And
we would
that's
have
why
lost
he's socially
millions of
distancing
people
and doing
possibly,
things from
but
his
certainly we would have
home.
lost a
You
million
idiot.
people. You take the high number and cut it in half again. But whether it would have been 600, 700, 800, you take a look at the travesty that there is. You
Answer
take a
the
look at
question
this
about the election.
horrible scene of hospitals with bodies and black body bags, right? multiply that times 10, 15, or even 20, because that would have happened. So we did the right thing. So far, we did the right thing. So far, we've called it right. We've mobilized like it was a military operation, and it was largely a military operation.
Stalled on
between
testing.
ventilators and testing and so many other things. And we've had a lot of good partners. Not all good partners, but we had a lot of good partners. Gavin Newsom today thanked us very much. Gavin Newsom, California, thanked us so much for getting him all the things that he needed so he can keep going and keep doing a good job. We got it to him today. Tomorrow we're getting him even more. Would have been harder for him to get it than us. We agreed to get it. We got it on time. He said promises made, promises kept. He actually said that in a statement today. We've done a good job. We've gotten very little credit for the great job we've done because of the media, because the media is not an honest media, in my opinion, much of it. Not all of it. We have some great reporters that I have tremendous respect, but much of the media is not.
The lying press.
I can't tell you about the election. You have a Democrat party,
lying press,
and you have
the
a large
press,
portion of the media automatically
fake news,
giving a guy a pass. He's been given a pass.
How's
Whether or not he's going to be the nominee, I have no idea. But he's getting a pass.
He's the presumptive nominee.
And the media isn't covering the great job that we've done. Whether it's Mike's task force, which has been incredible, whether it's the way we mobilized in a warlike operation to build these incredibly complex and very expensive ventilators. They're very expensive to build and very complex. The job we've done has been an amazing job. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about the generals, the admirals, Deborah and Tony and now Bill. I mean, something we hadn't heard today. So I can't tell you what's going to happen with the election. I think that had we not gone through a fake Russia deal, an impeachment hoax. It was a total hoax. From the day I got elected, but you know,
the Russia thing was just confirmed by a bipartisan committee that there was Russian interference in the election.
A witch hunt that was illegal. It was an illegal witch hunt. It was illegal.
Senate, and it was not illegal. The House has the power to impeach.
Because the people see we're doing a great job, and you know what? We'll continue to do a great job. If we had an honest press, this country would be even greater. Thank you. Thank you very much.
About the legitimacy of the results.
This president, what to do? I mean, it's just full of crap. Lies, more lies, and you know that's what people who lie all the time do, is that they will basically say that everyone else is lying to cover up the fact that they're lying. Good information about the fact that UV rays could potentially kill it on surfaces. Not emerging information. I don't think it's the final study, so we need more information, and we should get more information. But again, he then has to interject his own fake science that he wants to believe that it's true, just like he did with hydroxychloroquine. And he has backed off on hydroxychloroquine because of that VA report, and I'm sure he knows about the VA report. I'm sure he didn't physically read it, but I'm sure somebody told him about it. So somebody said, maybe you should tone down on the hydroxychloroquine a bit because we had some people die at higher rates than they would have otherwise, and we need to take a look at that some more. And especially if he invested in those companies, I don't know if he has. We don't know his financials because he doesn't release his financials. So there's no way for us to know what he has and has not invested in. But at the end of the day, we need to we need to see what exactly he did. If he did invest in this company, in these companies that create hydroxychloroquine and then pumped these companies up using his power of the presidency, that should be another impeachable offense. But obviously they won't do it. They won't convict on anything because of the fact that we have a Republican Senate who just will do his bidding regardless of, he could probably shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and they'll be like, well, that person had it coming. He's the president. We can't do anything. There's never been a case where we've removed a president from office for shooting somebody in the middle of Times Square, so why should we do so now? Or some ridiculous reasoning that they would probably come to if he did that, which obviously he's not gonna. But still, that's the point, is that they're going to be his lackeys. There's no way that you would be able to remove him from office except for having a Democratic Senate. But if you get a Democratic Senate in the next election, you're probably going to wind up with a Democratic president too. So one of the very important reasons why you need to vote blue in the fall in states that matter, make sure that you get out there so that this clown is not replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. If she wants to retire, let her retire with a Democrat in office and a Democratic Senate so she can be replaced by somebody who's reasonable, who's going to give good rulings, because issues like abortion are under fire, LGBTQ rights. You could see an end to Roe versus Wade, Obersville v. Hodges, Casey versus Planned Parenthood, maybe even Lawrence v. Texas if they had their way. Now you had the recent Supreme Court ruling that that did overturn a previously quote settled law with stare decisis, as Alito likes to point out. Alito talked about stare decisis a lot during his confirmation hearings, and you wind up having him resting, that's why he voted against overturning unanimous juries. And I've talked about that more on my podcast, and that's it's available online, blogtalkradio.com/liberaldan. It's also, you also get it on iTunes. And people are saying that he then is going to always vote that. No, Alito will, in a hot minute, vote to overturn Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood if he feels that it was unjustly determined, if it was bad ruling, if you will, bad logic, bad constitutional reasoning. He would absolutely, in a second, overturn Roe v. Wade, and he would be like, "What's stare decisis? I don't know what that is." So anyway, for more on that, tune into my podcast that I just did yesterday. Typically I'm on the air 8 p.m. Central Wednesdays. I also have my mini cast that I do on Anchor, anchor.fm/liberaldan. I have Patreon up right now that you can support the podcast with, patreon.com/liberaldan. You can subscribe to me at Liberal Dan Radio on Twitter, facebook.com/liberaldan. Again, please hit the subscribe button on the video below and like as well, so I can grow the channel. And as always, be healthy, stay socially distanced, stay safe, and have a good day.